Hello from what is now a pitch black, almost freezing wet Loftus Road after Hull City lose 3-2. And it's another game, I think, that City will look back on and wonder how on earth they've thrown away a good position, a really good position, having led twice in the game, to lose 3-2. A bit like at Derby in the last away game, where they fought back and got themselves on terms at Derby, were in control and contrived to lose the game. It was a bit similar here today, although they did lead through Joe Gelhardt's 6th goal in 7 games in the first half. But unfortunately, their defensive issues are there again. That's another 3 goals conceded. And while I can't really blame the defence necessarily today, as a collective, they didn't defend well enough and they've conceded 3 goals. And I mean, it's hard to argue that Rangers were value for the victory. They had 26 shots, 15 of those came in the first half. But when you score 2 goals away from home, I think you are understandably entitled to think you should go on and win the football match, irrespective of anything else. So I just feel that it's another game that has passed them by. And, you know, that on one hand, City are making fantastic progress. They're still in the playoffs. They're 6th in the league, which I think if you'd have spoken to anybody associated with this football club at the start of the season, and you would have said after 16 games you'll be 6th in the Championship, I don't think you'd have found too many people saying that's not okay. But I think the frustration comes from the fact that City have got themselves into a wonderful position, and it's not the first time where they've allowed an opposition to run over them when they had strong position. If you think back to Watford away, they went 1-0 up and they were in control. They lost the game. You know, Derby, they weren't winning, but they came back and got on terms and were in the ascendancy and lost. Today, they went in front, were pegged back. They went in front again early in the second half, but just 4 minutes later, after Enis Destan headed in brilliantly from Ryan Giles' perfect cross, they conceded another goal, and then they go on and lose the game. Even at Bristol City way back in August, Bristol City in that crazy game at Ashton Gate where there were 49 shots, 29 on their goal, they led after 5 minutes through Joe Gelhardt. So, you know, scoring goals isn't a problem, but collectively they just don't look like keeping clean sheets. They've only had 3 all season, and in fairness, every time QPR came forward today, they looked like they were going to score. City at no point in the entire 90 minutes did they have any kind of control, and that kind of came from midfield. In truth, the midfield I thought Regan started the game on his 200th appearance for Hull City. I thought Regan started really well. It was him winning the ball back in his own half, then driving through midfield and playing in Joff to score the opening goal that got City in front against the run of play, because by that point Rangers had it was a bit not dissimilar to last season when, you know, Ivo Pandor made 3 or 4 really good saves in the first 10 minutes. City could have been 3 or 4 down last season, ended up going on and win the game. It was a bit like that this afternoon. Rangers were the dominant force, City's first real chance of note, and they were in front. And they held that lead right until half-time. And yeah, look, a couple of the goals were really unfortunate. The first goal for Elias Chair, who I thought was very good today, was a shot. Charlie Hughes blocked the shot, and it fell perfectly to Chair to slide in. And their winning goal was another shot that was blocked by Hughes, and it fell to Burrell, who just slotted it in past Ivo Pandor. But it was the second goal, I think, that was the really irritating one, because they'd come out, they started well second half, they got themselves in front, as I say. Lovely ball from Gilo, bullet header from Enis Destan in front of the away fans, just over 1,500 of them. And you think, right, OK, they're back in front, just quieten it down for 5-10 minutes, don't do anything daft, take the sting out of it, Rangers will come back, but just try and keep them at arm's length and just let the game settle down a little bit. But they couldn't do that, and they couldn't clear. There was a corner, 2 or 3 opportunities to get it out, and there was just like half attempts to clear, and in the end, Jimmy Dunn, defenders, clipped it in from just inside the penalty area down here, and it's gone over, got the goalkeeper and a defender on the line, and it's 2-2. And having wrestled it back and got back in front, it's just a really bad goal to give away. And I think that is the frustrating thing from Jakirovic. He was really annoyed after the game in his own way. I mean, he's not the sort of manager that comes in screaming and shouting. He's just asking, why are we panicking? Why do we panic so much? Why are we just Why don't we take the sting out of it? Why are we not trying to keep the ball a little bit better? And all valid points that, you know, are understandable, because you've come away from home against a team that aren't in great form, let's be honest. But I thought Rangers were very good today. I thought they played really well. But despite that, and despite City not playing very well at all, if I'm honest, they still got themselves 1-0 in front. Okay, the setback happens, but then you work really hard and you did really well to get the second goal. And you're away from home, you're 2-1 up. You just need to, you know, if it means you've got to go 11 men behind the ball for 5 minutes and just head and kick everything clear, and just do not give them any encouragement to get back in the game and just see out what is that period, and then you've got a platform then potentially to hold on to the game or go and get another goal, which is the way they play. But they did neither in that, and they just couldn't. They were just really like floppy defensively. And as I say, I don't think the back four had a bad. I don't think Giles, Hughes, Egan, Louis Coyle, even the goalkeeper made 2 or 3 really good saves. I don't think they had a bad game. But I think the problems were further up the pitch. I think the lack of control. That, you know, Destan scored a really good goal, but the ball very rarely stuck with him. There was a couple of times in the first half where he held it up. But again, I don't want to fall into that trap of going, but if Ollie McBurney was on the pitch. But I'm going to, because if Ollie McBurney was on the pitch, the ball tends to stick. And I think back to the game at Birmingham where City were really under the cosh. And I think it was Gilo pinged the ball up to the halfway line, and McBurney wrestled with the Birmingham defender, and he went from the halfway line back to the Birmingham to the Birmingham goal line and won a corner for his side out of nothing. And it got City up from being under pressure, out of pressure, and it got them up the pitch and up the other end with their own corner. And we didn't really have that today. There was no ability to get up the pitch and get out and kind of ease every time it went forward, it just kept coming back. And there was a lack of bite in midfield. As I say, I thought Regan started really well. He faded. I thought Amir, the game was just too frantic for him. Amir's all right when the game is quite slow and he can move around. But when the game is like a basketball match, Amir is caught out, and I thought he was caught out. I didn't think Crooks was particularly great today. He did get a rather silly booking in added time. I mean, there was only... I don't understand how the referee only gave 4 minutes of added time. There was, 3 goals in the second half. There was about 300 substitutions. There was a moment where Crooks was breaking down the right-hand side, and he got into space, and some clown in the home fans blew a whistle. So Crooks stopped, and thinking it was the referee. The referee actually dealt with it quite well because he gave City the ball back. But that took a minute, and so anyway, Crooks was booked in 4 minutes of added time. That means he's now got 5 bookings. He will be suspended on Tuesday night against Ipswich Town. You know, there was a couple of moments. Carl Joseph had a really good chance he should have scored. Undala came off the bench, and a couple of shots blocked. Balumi came off the bench. But it didn't really look, apart from the Joseph chance, it didn't really look like scoring. Akintola headed over, but that was a really hard chance. In fairness, he tried an acrobatic overhead kick in injury time, gave away a foul. So all in all, I think Louise, you mentioned it earlier, just the fact that we have to be happy with where we are. We do, but I also think you can demand. I've just spoken to Ryan Giles, and I sort of said to Gilo, is that you want to demand more from them, because they've done so well this season. They've done so well, but because of that, the expectations are rising, and you want more from them, and you've seen they can deliver more. And then you see games like this where, you know, they have thrown away something. Even if they'd got a point today, you go, okay, it's a point away from home after the international break. You know, after the international break, it's always tricky. Let's take that, and particularly given how poorly they've played, probably for the most part in the game, and how many chances the opposition have created. If you get out of here with a point, I say you go, that's a decent point. I think so. That is the frustration, that it's another game that's passed them by. It's another game they'll look back on the coach back to Hull this evening and go, why haven't we got something from it? We've dropped points, and yes, they are 6th in the table. That's a fantastic, not achievement as such, because we're only 16 games in, but they're doing really well, and they've got themselves into a fantastic position. It would be really frustrating if they weren't able to kick on and make the most of the work they've done. But it is the Championship. This can happen. It is now about responding, and they've got to respond against Ipswich on Tuesday night. Massive game, obviously, at the MKM. Greavesy and Jadon back. City have already beaten Southampton, Leicester and Sheffield United at home. Ipswich have drawn at home to Wrexham, so they're not... Ipswich haven't quite hit their straps, I think it's fair to say, having come down from the Premier League, given the obvious quality they've got in their ranks. Hopefully they don't start on Tuesday night. I think it's a good game for City, actually, on the back of this. And there's still a lot to admire about them. They've scored 2 goals away from home. They're scoring a lot of goals, but you can't. It's a bit like the Ashes, isn't it? It's a bit like the cricket. England got bailed out. You can't bat for 67 overs and expect to win a Test match. They got bailed out by the bowlers in the first innings. They flopped in the second innings with a bat, and the bowlers couldn't do it again. And it's a bit like that with Hull City, to use that analogy. That you can't keep conceding 2s and 3s a game and expect to win football matches. They've scored 2 away from home, but they conceded 3. They're conceding too many goals. Only the Sheffield teams have conceded more, I think, in the Championship. Yes, because they play expansively, they are going to leave themselves open. But I've said this time and time again, the goals they're conceding aren't because they're being cut open, because they're expansive. They're coming from areas that they can generally avoid. The second goal is entirely, it's not because they play expansive football. It's not because they were caught on the counter-attack and, you play with feathers and you get your backside tickled. They just were inept at being able to clear the ball in their own 18-yard box. As Jakirovic said to me afterwards, there was a lot of set pieces. We weren't struggling with the first contact. It was the second ball we just couldn't clear. So lots to work on. But as I say, they've come away from home. They'll always look at the positives and say we've scored 2 away from home. But they've got to tighten up, because that's another 26 attempts at their goal is too much. It was too frantic. Great game for the neutral. Absolutely fantastic game for the neutral. And I'm sure City fans going home will be disappointed they've lost, but go, it was an enjoyable game to watch. And in many ways it was, but generally you want to get something out of the games that are enjoyable to watch, or certainly more than you lose. But look, they're still 6th in the Championship, so I think there is an element of realism needed, but they have got to tighten up, because, as I say, I don't think QPR have had to work particularly hard for their 3 goals today, and that is the issue. City have scored twice and they've lost because they can't defend, and 2 of them are unlucky, and sometimes it goes for you, sometimes it goes against you. I get that, but all 3 goals came from City not being clinical in terms of trying to clear their penalty area and get the ball away. And sometimes you've just got to rose-ed it. Sometimes you've just got to play the percentage and boot it out, and just relieve the pressure and not try and be too clever and basically pussyfoot around with it in and around your 18-yard box. Anyway, let's take some questions before I head home. Paul, who do you think will come in for Crooks? Crooks suspended on Tuesday night. I suspect it will be Darko JB. If we've got any indication from today, JB came on in the second half. I thought he actually helped create a little bit of control at times. It wasn't massive, but I think JB is the obvious one there, if I'm honest. He could also change shape. He could go 3 central defenders. He could bring back Shemi Ajay, and he could go with Ajay, Egan and Charlie Hughes, who I thought was really unlucky, to be fair, Charlie, today, with the 2 goals. He's thrown his body to try and block the shots, and they've just squirmed off him into the path of 2 Rangers players who have scored. So he could change shape, but if it was like for like, I think he'd probably go JB. But we'll see. Let's have a look at what other people are saying. David, we've got to stop teams having so many shots. 26 is today. Yeah, I absolutely agree. David, the manager said the same thing. 26, it was 29 at Bristol City. They lost 4-2. So there's a correlation, clearly, with the more shots. It's not rocket science. The more shots they're letting on their goal, teams are going to score. And that's something. But that isn't. It's, as I say, it's easy to look at the back 4, but I don't think the back 4 were the problem today. I think it was the rest of the team in front of them that didn't protect them well enough. They didn't close down. You defend from the front, and I don't think they defended from the front enough. Louise, when is Ollie back? He's still saying Stoke next Saturday in the early kick-off at 12:30. We'll have to wait and see. We're in the lap of the gods. James, we allow QPR to get into the game too much. Respect. Poor communication between Hughes and Panda. We do it regularly. And points today. Yeah, I can't disagree. Points dropped there. Absolutely. Let's have a Jason Statham. I'm not going to make Burns' joke that he does on the podcast. Podcast back with you Monday morning. By the way, get your questions into the 1904 Club on X if you want to get in touch. I know Burns has already put something out. Jason says, as much as I love scoring goals, I'll take a clean sheet 0-0 away from home all day. I don't disagree with you, Jason. I'm not sure that is going to happen, because I just think the opposition look at City and think we can get at them, and City always look like scoring goals. You know, they've played 16 games, they've scored in 14 of them. So the only 2 games they haven't scored was Coventry on the opening day, which looks a better point as the weeks go on. And that game, the only home defeat so far against Blackburn, when everybody was as sick as a dog. So they're scoring goals. I just don't see them. I saw it on Tuesday night. I cannot, in all good consciousness, sit here and go, I think they'll keep a clean sheet against Ipswich. I hope they do. Of course I do, because I think if they do, they'll win the game. But I just don't, with the attacking quality that Ipswich have got, Jayden will be licking his lips, won't he? I just don't see them keeping a clean sheet. But they've got to. It's really exciting. Sergei said to me afterwards that, you know, what did he say? We're an attractive team to watch. Yes, they are at times. Although in the first half they didn't really have any. They only shot on target. They had I think it was 15-1 to shots on goal. The only one effort was Gelhardt's goal. They are an attractive team, but I would like them to be a little bit tighter. And I don't think they need to change the way they play to be that. I just think they need to switch on. I think they've got to be more aggressive. I think they've got to take control of situations, and sometimes just boot, as I said before, just hammer it out. You know, there's nothing wrong with just trying to stick it right down into the QPR corner flag when you're trying to clear your lines. Sometimes they're trying to be a bit too clever. I did think at times, as I say, QPR got the rub of the green today, and there's been games in this season where City have rode their luck and it's not gone for them, and that was one of those today where it's gone against them. But yeah, I know what you're saying, Jason. I agree on that point. Louise, we're going to lose games, but we're 6. I mentioned that earlier on, absolutely. But like I say, Lee, was heart attack football that? Yeah, well, we were promised that a year ago and we never really got it, so we are getting it just a year later. Incidentally, it's coming up a year on, I think it's a year on Thursday that Tim Volter was sacked. One of his few wins did come here a year ago. Yeah, like I say, I think there's a lot to look. We love the team. We love the way they play. We would just like them to play with a bit more common sense defensively. I keep repeating myself here because I don't want it to seem like we're hammering the defence, because they've had a lot of stick. I just think as further forward was the problem today. They didn't get the help. The back 5 collectively, and they were just too exposed, and they've got to tighten that up. And I know he's trying to work on it, and they're trying to find that balance between being a team that play on the front foot, want to get forward, want to create chances and score goals, but one that is defensively resolute, defensively a lot stronger. And if they can find that balance, I've said this before, they've got every chance of being in and around that top 6 all season, because they are such a team that play on the front foot, a team that scores so many goals, but they've just got to try and not give up so many chances. If you're giving up 30 chances a game, teams are going to score goals. You know, you can, as I said, I used the cricket analogy, and that might be a rubbish one, but eventually teams are going to punish you. Good teams, you know, the championship is so even. Jurkovic always says they're 50-50 games, and they are. And if you give up 25, 30 chances a game, teams are going to hit you. They are going to hurt you. You can't, rely on luck all the time of goalkeeper, of penalty saves or shots hitting the post or teams missing chances. Teams will punish you, and that's a harsh lesson. As it was at Pride Park a couple of weeks ago, they got, that was a game they should never have walked away from with nothing. They have done today. I think it's different. I don't think you can come away saying they should have got something, in the sense of how many chances QPR created. The fact they've scored 2 goals, you could argue, yes, they should have got something. But I think if we're honest, I think you'd have to say QPR deserved that victory. But it was handed to them in some respects on a plate. But that's to take nothing away from Rangers, who I thought played really well in the game. Just a quick check. As I say, podcast coming on Monday. We will be with the City team, the City camp, on Monday to preview the game against Ipswich. Crooks was awful, Robert says. Andy says Crooks wasn't great. Yeah, players are going to have bad games. Crooks is playing with an injury, let's not forget that. He wasn't as effective today as he can be, and it happens. Players at this level are going to have inconsistent games. They're going to have games where they're inconsistent within games. That is just the nature of the beast. Crooks has been fantastic all season. He didn't have his best game today. I thought, as I said before, I thought Amir, the game was too quick for him. Hopefully, he learns from that, because he's got to learn quickly that games like that are basketball games. You've got to win it quickly. You've got to shift it quickly. You've got to get control of it. And if they'd have had 10 minutes of control in the game, they might have gone on and won it. But it's a learning curve for them. Robert, stats show QPR were much better. Yeah, I mean, stats can often be painted to fit any narrative, but I think if you look at the stats, they certainly say that QPR deserved to win the game. I think I prefer to go on the eye test rather than what I see on paper. And the game I watched, I on this occasion, I think the stats bear it out. I think the stats for the game, in terms of who played the better game, I think it was Queen's Park Rangers. But City, have not played particularly well again, and they've come very close to getting something from the game. So again, I think there's an element to like about that, and there's an element to be optimistic about, that they've come away, they've not played particularly well, they've scored twice, and they've come close to getting, and they should have got something. They should have got something from it, and they've got to learn from it. They have to learn quickly. The Championship is brutal, and it waits for no man, does it? But as I say, I still think nobody needs to overreact to this. It's a defeat. It can happen. They're sixth in the Championship after 16 games. They're going in the right direction, but they just need to, particularly away from home, because that's a lot of points dropped now from winning. I think it was 8 points before today, so that's another 3 points dropped from a winning position today after only 16 games of the season. So there's clearly an issue there that they've got to resolve. I think they can. I think they've got the personnel in the dressing room. I think they've got the manager to resolve it, but they've got to do it quick, because what we don't want. And I know I'm jumping miles ahead, and given where they've come from in the summer and what happened last season, but they've fashioned themselves a fantastic opportunity here this season. It would be a crying shame if they ended up dropping down and finishing 15th, because they kept going in front but couldn't hold out, and they kept dropping points when they were in games, and that would be a real frustration in a season where the Championship is as open, and there's a massive opportunity for them. But games like today will be the reason they end up finishing 9th. If you think back 2 years, they finished 7th because they kept dropping points in games they should not have dropped points in. Yes, this is more attractive, you would say. They score a lot more goals, but ultimately, if the end result is the same, well, the end game is the same, isn't it? They missed out by a couple of points under Liam Rosenior because they were winning games like Birmingham at home, but they couldn't see it off, and they conceded from Jukovic in the 85th minute. There were so many games like that under Liam where they've got themselves into a winning position but haven't gone on and won the game, and they missed out on the top 6. The similarities here. Yes, they're playing a different style of football, but they're getting themselves in Bristol City away, Watford away, Derby to an extent. Here today, that's 3. I've listed 4 games off the bat there, 3 of which they were winning, and they've failed to win any of them. Watford, Bristol City, Watford, QPR, all winning, all lost. Derby went behind, came back, were drawing, lost. That's 4 games where they've had strong positions away from home, and they've contrived to lose 3 of them. They've got to turn that dial if they're not going to pass up this opportunity. But it's still really early. Let's not jump before we can walk. Let's not, write it off. It's still really early in the season, but that is a trait that they have to correct. Right. Let's just quickly. Andy, credit to the goalkeeper. I've given him some stick over the last few weeks. Obviously, it's great for him to get called up to the Croatian squad for the first time. Hopefully now keeps his place in the squad and he can go to the World Cup next summer. He made some, as he did last season here, made 2 or 3 really good saves. He didn't deserve to be on the end of a losing team today, but that is football. Louise talking about the derby tomorrow between Sheffield Wednesday and United. David, agreed about the midfield. Said that earlier. No control. Robert, midfield balance. If we can solve that, we can get more points. Yeah, they've got to start getting more control. I think Lundstrom coming back. Hopefully, Lundstrom is back for Tuesday. Although Jukovic was still non-committal about whether he will be or will not be available for Tuesday night. But I think him coming back adds some competition in that midfield. Obviously, the question earlier on about who replaces Crooks, potentially Lundstrom could be the replacement if they deem him fit enough, but we'll have to wait and see. Johnny, Joffrey's goal shades of Jared Bowen. Yeah, he's in great form, Joffrey, isn't he? That was the way he took it on his left. shifted past the defender and banged it in. I mean, the goalkeeper, Hamish, should probably do better, but he's in great form, Joffrey. Just a shame he couldn't build on that and they couldn't get him more involved in that game second half. Right, I'm going to call it a day because I don't want to get locked in like I did at Watford. That would be tremendously awkward, and the car is, it's a long way home, let's put it that way. Look, 1,500 supporters here today, long way to come, £39 a ticket, tremendous backing up in the upper tier away to our right in the end. Not the result that you guys wanted or deserved, but it's football, it happens. City must now bounce back against Ipswich Town on Tuesday night before going to the Bet365. The Potteries for a 12:30 kickoff against Stoke City, beaten at Leicester City today, next weekend. So plenty of football coming up, plenty to come, obviously, from here at Loftus Road between now and, well, from today, tomorrow, Monday. And, of course, we'll have the latest from the dressing room when we're at the training ground on Monday. Podcast coming Monday. Get in touch at the 1904 Club. You can watch this back if you've missed it on Facebook Live. You can watch it back on the YouTube channel later on if you should so wish. Thanks for all your questions, all your comments, as always. If you've got any more comments, fire them over and we'll try and get them answered. And we will see you again soon. Up those times.